What happens when America's most beloved fighter walks into a studio expecting a tribute and instead faces off a host ready to mock and bring him down on live television? It was supposed to be a heartfelt interview about hope, science, and second chances. But the moment Michael J. Fox sat across from Joy Behar on The View, the air changed. Joy's questions weren't meant to inspire. They were meant to cut. Every word dripped with challenge. Every smile hit a dare. Within minutes, the conversation turned into a battleground. And when Joy crossed the line one time too many, Michael didn't just defend himself. He detonated the truth in front of millions, leaving the entire studio frozen in silence. Trust me, this talk show won't disappoint you. It'll be worth every second of your time. The studio lights burned bright as The View went live. The air was thick with excitement. Cameras panned across the table of hosts, Whoopi in her signature calm, Sunny flipping through notes, Sarah smiling politely, and Joy Behar, leaning back, coffee cup in hand, eyes sharp and already calculating. "All right, everyone, today we have a real icon with us," Whoopi said, smiling at the camera. "He's made us laugh, made us cry, and most importantly, he's made a difference. Please welcome Michael J. Fox." The audience erupted. Michael walked out in his usual humble style, smiling and waving. There was something steady and kind in his presence, a quiet dignity. He shook hands with Whoopi, hugged Sunny, nodded to Sarah, and then turned to Joy, who remained seated, her smile thin and unreadable. "Joy," Whoopi prompted with a small laugh. "You're not standing?" Joy sipped her coffee slowly. "Oh, I'll stand when we get to the real questions," she said with a half grin. The audience gave an awkward chuckle, unsure whether she was joking. Michael laughed lightly, trying to diffuse the tension. "It's good to be back," he said warmly. "Always nice to see a friendly table." Joy's eyebrow lifted. "Let's hope it stays friendly." The audience laughed again, but this time it felt forced. Sunny started things off. "Michael, your foundation has raised over $1 billion for Parkinson's research. That's incredible. How does it feel to know your work is changing so many lives?" Michael smiled genuinely. "It's a privilege, really. I've been living with this for decades, but seeing real progress, real hope, makes it worth it. We're closer than ever to a breakthrough." Whoopi nodded. "You've always handled it with so much grace. People really admire that, thank you," Michael said. "But it's not about me. It's about the scientists, the caregivers, the families who live this every day." He barely finished before Joy jumped in. Right. "But let's not pretend fame doesn't help," she said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "I mean, most people with Parkinson's can't just pick up the phone and raise $1 billion, can they?" The room shifted. Michael's polite smile stiffened. "That's true," he said carefully. "But if having a platform means I can make noise for the people who don't, then I'll use it." Joy leaned forward, resting her elbows on the table. "Sure, but do you ever feel like people donate because they feel sorry for you? Not because of the science?" Whoopi's head turned sharply. "Joy, no, it's a fair question," Joy continued, waving her hand. "I mean, you've built this image of the brave fighter, always smiling through the pain. It's inspiring, sure, but it's also great branding." Michael's tone shifted, quiet but firm. "I didn't build an image, Joy. I built a foundation," Joy smirked. "Same difference these days, isn't it?" "Image is everything," Sarah tried to cut in. "Joy, come on!" But Joy was rolling now, eyes glinting. "I'm just saying, a lot of people think you've turned your diagnosis into your identity. The interviews, the documentaries, the speeches. Does it ever feel like too much Michael the advocate? Not enough Michael the actor?" Michael's eyes met hers, calm but sharp. "You mean the actor who's been trying to fund cures for people dying every day? That guy?" "Don't twist it," Joy shot back. "I'm just asking if the advocacy helps your career more than it helps the science." Sunny shifted uncomfortably. "He's literally funding research, Joy." Joy ignored her, eyes locked on Michael. "You must admit it doesn't hurt your public image, right?" Michael let out a slow breath. "You know, Joy, I've spent half my life trying to make peace with something I can't control. The other half I've spent trying to make it easier for people who can't afford to fight it. If you think that's a PR stunt, that says more about you than me." For a moment, the room went silent. Whoopi leaned in, voice low but firm. Let's bring this back to the work, yeah? Joy smiled faintly, almost triumphant. Oh, we'll get there, she said. But let's not pretend the work doesn't come with perks. Michael's tone cooled. The only perk is waking up knowing I might have made a difference. Joy tilted her head. And another magazine cover. That did it. The warmth drained completely. Sarah's nervous smile faded. Sonny's jaw tightened. Even Whoopi looked unsettled. Michael leaned slightly forward. You think this is easy? You think being the face of something like this is some kind of privilege? Joy shrugged. You tell me. He smiled, but it wasn't polite anymore. Then maybe you should try living it. The table went quiet again. Joy looked away for the first time. Whoopi cleared her throat. All right, she said carefully. Let's talk about the foundation's next steps. The studio felt different now. Colder, sharper. The laughter from earlier was gone. Joy leaned back in her chair, eyes locked on Michael with the kind of grin that never reached her eyes. You know, Michael, she began, her tone deceptively casual. I've been thinking about what you said, about progress, about changing lives. But isn't it fair to say you've also built an entire second career out of being untouchable? Michael's brow furrowed slightly. Untouchable? Joy nodded, almost pleased with herself. Yeah. You've become this symbol that no one's allowed to question. You're shielded by sympathy. You've built a brand out of it. The air went still. Sarah looked down at her notes, pretending to read something. Sonny's hands froze over her cue cards. Michael's voice, calm but edged with quiet steel, cut through the silence. I didn't build a brand, Joy. I built a mission. On science, not sympathy. Joy smirked, clearly enjoying the pushback. Come on, you have to admit, there's power in being the hero everyone feels sorry for. You shake on camera, you talk about hope, and suddenly you're untouchable. It's brilliant, Joy. Whoopi's warning was soft but firm, but Joy ignored it, leaning forward now, eyes glinting like a poker player who knew she was holding a dangerous card. Saint Michael, she said mockingly, the man who shakes on screen and sways elections off it. The temperature in the room dropped. Sarah froze mid-breath. Sonny stared down at the table, her expression tight. Michael didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Choose your words carefully, he said, low and even. Joy gave a little laugh, feigning innocence. I'm just saying what people think, Michael. You talk about health policy, you appear in political ads, you use your condition to pull at heartstrings. Some people might call that emotional strategy. Michael's jaw tightened. You mean emotional manipulation, he said. Joy shrugged. If the shoe fits. That was the crack, small but deep. Something in Michael's expression shifted. The patience that had defined him for decades began to strain. He leaned forward slightly. You want to talk about exploitation? His tone stayed calm, but there was something dangerous beneath it. Exploitation is selling outrage as journalism. Joy gave a quick, sharp laugh. Or selling pain as policy. Whoopi raised her hand, trying to steer the show back on track. All right, let's keep this productive. But Joy talked right over her. No, Whoopi, it's a fair conversation. People deserve to know if advocacy crosses into politics. Isn't that what transparency is all about? Michael stared at her for a long moment, unblinking. Transparency isn't the same thing as ambush. Joy wasn't done, not even close. She leaned forward, her voice cool but loaded. You've done those political ads before, haven't you, Michael? The ones that play during election season? You standing there, shaking, talking about health care, pulling at people's emotions right before they vote. It landed like a slap. Michael blinked slowly, his smile gone. What exactly are you implying? Joy didn't flinch. That maybe you've learned how to turn your illness into influence. People see you, and they don't question. They just feel, and maybe that's the whole point. There was a scraping sound, Michael's chair rolling back as he stood. The room fell completely silent. Cameras kept rolling, but no one dared move. That's enough, he said, voice low but cutting through the air like glass. The tone wasn't angry, it was final. The kind of tone that made everyone realize the line had just been crossed. Whoopi glanced toward the control room, unsure whether to cut to commercial. But Michael didn't sit down. He planted his hands on the table, eyes locked on Joy. "You want to talk about manipulation?" he said, his voice now steady, precise. "Fine. Let's talk about who's really exploiting who." Joy tilted her head, smirking faintly. "Oh, this should be good. I put data on the table," Michael continued, "and you put doubt on the teleprompter. I talk about science, and you twist it into spin. You call it journalism. I call it theater." Joy leaned in. "People deserve to know your motives, Michael." He didn't blink. "My motive is a cure. What's yours? Ratings or a scalp?" That hit like a gunshot. Even Whoopi froze mid-breath. Sarah stared down, pretending to flip pages that weren't there. Sonny's pen stopped moving. Joy tried to laugh, but it came out brittle. "You think you can guilt-trip me into silence?" Michael took a slow step toward her side of the table. "No," he said quietly. "I think silence would do you good." Whoopi finally spoke up, voice cautious. "All right, let's reset." But Michael didn't take his eyes off Joy. "No reset," he said. "Clarity." And for the first time that morning, Joy didn't have a comeback. Her expression faltered. Just slightly, but enough for everyone to see it. The confidence she wore like armor cracked around the edges. Michael straightened his jacket, his voice calm again. "You wanted a moment, Joy," he said softly. "Now you've got one." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavy, charged, and unforgettable. The air was still heavy, but Michael's voice had shifted. The anger was gone. What remained was precision. Calm, deliberate, surgical. He sat back down, eyes steady, every word now cutting sharper because he didn't have to raise his voice. "You know, Joy," he said quietly, "you don't have to like me. But you do have to respect facts." Joy opened her mouth to respond, but he continued, steady as a heartbeat. "The Michael J. Fox Foundation publicly releases every grant, every dollar spent. We fund peer-reviewed research, independent audits, published data. Nothing's hidden." He looked at her, not with rage, but with something colder. "If you'd done your homework, you'd ask better questions." The table went still again. Joy blinked, thrown off by his composure. For the first time, she didn't look in control. "I did my homework," she shot back, but her tone wavered. "I just think celebrities should be held accountable. You've got power, influence. That's a responsibility." Michael nodded once. "You're right," he said evenly. "It is a responsibility. That's why I use it for people who don't have any." Joy tried to press, but her voice had lost its edge. "Still, there's a fine line between awareness and self-promotion, don't you think?" Michael's reply came quiet, almost gentle, but it hit harder than anything before. "There's also a fine line between asking a question and dressing up cruelty as curiosity." That one landed. Joy looked away, eyes darting toward Whoopi, maybe searching for backup that didn't come. And then Michael leaned forward slightly, his expression softening. "I didn't choose Parkinson's," he said, voice low but clear. "I chose to be useful with it." The studio went silent again. But this time, it wasn't tense. It was the kind of silence that follows truth. Joy finally exhaled, realizing she'd pushed too far. She shifted in her chair, eyes flicking toward the teleprompter, then back to Michael. When she spoke again, her tone was noticeably softer. "Look, Michael," she began, "I'm not questioning the good you've done. But let's be honest. Beyond medicine, you've weighed in on plenty of other things. Policy, politics, candidates. So why should people accept your authority on all that?" Michael didn't flinch. His reply came steady, even, almost calm, to the point of disarming. "They shouldn't accept authority, Joy. They should accept evidence." Joy blinked, unprepared for how quickly he turned that back on her. "Evidence," she said, trying to keep her tone light. "Sure, but evidence comes from experts, not actors." Michael's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed measured. "You're right. I'm not a policymaker. But I talk to the scientists who can't afford airtime. I work with the doctors who spend nights in labs instead of studios. If my name gets their work heard, I'll use it." The audience murmured quietly. The first hint of reaction since the confrontation began. Joy caught it and pressed again, her words deceptively smooth. Then maybe stick to Parkinson's, she said. Leave policy alone. Leave politics to the politicians. Michael's reply came instantly, as if he'd been waiting for that. Policy funds labs. Labs save lives. Your wall between them is imaginary. That line hit like a clean strike. Whoopi glanced at him, impressed despite herself. Sunny nodded faintly. Sarah just sat there, hands clasped tight, watching the tension pulse between them. Joy smirked, trying to brush it off. You make it sound simple. Michael leaned slightly forward. It is simple. You keep calling it politics because admitting it's about people would end your argument. The room went still again. Joy's smirk froze halfway. Michael didn't gloat, didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. For a moment it looked like Joy might let the tension cool, but she couldn't help herself. There was something about Michael's calm that infuriated her, the way he refused to lose his composure, even when cornered. She leaned forward, eyes narrowing. You know what this sounds like to me, Michael? A man who's gotten very good at marketing his struggle. You've turned hardship into a brand, and that brand keeps paying dividends. Michael didn't blink. His voice dropped an octave, quiet but with a weight that cut through the noise. I market hope, Joy. You market suspicion, that drew a few murmurs from the audience. Sunny opened her mouth, trying to soften things. Maybe what Michael means is that awareness doesn't... But Joy sliced across her. No, let him finish. Apparently, I'm the one who doesn't understand compassion. Michael met her stare, unshaken. You don't understand accountability, he said simply. The heat in the room surged again. Joy leaned back, feigning amusement. Accountability? Please. You talk about transparency, but you never mention how much your foundation influences politics. Michael straightened slightly, his tone now sharp, measured, precise, like a lawyer dismantling a bad argument. Peer-reviewed outcomes, trial phases publicly listed, audited grants published yearly. Every dollar tracked, he looked right at her. This isn't a halo. It's a ledger, Joy crossed her arms. Ledger or not, you still sway voters. Don't pretend your voice doesn't carry weight. Michael didn't hesitate. If truth sways them, he said, that's not on me. The table fell quiet. Whoopi looked down, biting her lip to stop from stepping in again. Sarah watched Michael almost in disbelief at how steady he remained. Joy, frustrated, pushed again. You make it sound like everything you touch is pure. But even good causes have motives. Michael's expression didn't change. Only his eyes hardened. Then name one misrepresentation from me, he said, voice low. Right now. On air, quoted. Joy froze, caught completely off guard. Michael leaned forward, his tone razor sharp but still calm. You can't quote what you never read. That landed like a punch. A long silence followed, the kind that made the crew stop breathing, the kind that told everyone watching this wasn't just a tense interview anymore. Michael didn't gloat. He just sat back, gaze steady, the message clear. He wasn't defending himself anymore. He was exposing her. Joy tried to look composed, but her voice was tight now, her smile brittle. Michael leaned forward slightly, his tone steady but sharper than before. Let's quit acting, he said. You don't have a problem with my work. You have a problem with my outcomes. You disagree with the results, so you question my character. Joy folded her arms, her tone defensive. I'm questioning your methods, Michael. The way you use your platform. Michael's eyes narrowed, but his voice never rose. No, Joy. You questioned my integrity, and you did it on purpose. The words hit hard. Even Whoopi, who'd been watching quietly, shifted in her seat. Sarah avoided eye contact altogether. Joy exhaled sharply, forcing a laugh that didn't sound real. Oh, don't be dramatic. I'm doing my job, asking what people want to know. Michael's tone darkened, cold and deliberate. No, you're turning someone's illness into your instrument. That stopped her. For a split second, Joy's face changed. Just enough for everyone to see it, but she couldn't back down. Don't hide behind your diagnosis, she fired back. That's not a shield from criticism. Michael's reply came without hesitation, quiet but lethal. "I don't hide behind it," he said. "I stand in front of it, so others don't have to." The silence that followed was total. You could hear the faint hum of the cameras. Even the audience, unsure what to do, sat frozen. Michael let the words hang for a moment, then reached for his jacket. Whoopi leaned in, urgent. "Michael, wait. Let's just take a breath. Finish the conversation." He paused long enough to look at her with genuine respect. "Whoopi, I appreciate that," he said softly. "But this platform could have been used for real information. Not today." Then he turned toward Joy one last time. The politeness was gone. What remained was clarity. "Honest questions are welcome," he said. "Loaded ones are lazy." And with that, he stood. The movement was quiet but final. He slipped on his jacket, adjusted the mic, and began walking toward the edge of the stage. Joy opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. He didn't look back. The cameras followed him as he walked off, steady, composed, and entirely done. It wasn't a meltdown. It wasn't a scene. It was a message. And everyone watching, in that studio and across America, understood it instantly. Michael J. Fox didn't storm out in anger. He walked away in conviction. In a world that often rewards noise over truth, he reminded everyone watching that integrity still has a voice. So what do you think? Was Michael right to stand his ground? Or should he have stayed and finished the fight? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read everyone. If you believe in conversations that actually mean something, hit subscribe and stay with us for more stories that don't just go viral, they go deep.